Slowhands Rock Talk Show.
Looking to get a professional website built at an affordable cost? Then look no further. Nova Web Design offers you all the services required to put your business on the map. Whether it's website redesign, website development or website maintenance, it's all here and more. Click the link in the description for more info. Before the video starts, if you could do me a huge favour and make sure that you have subscribed to the channel. It's free, it only takes seconds to do, and it really does help the channel continue to grow. Now on to the video. Okay, but Chesney, thank you so much for making a bit of time out of your Monday morning to come on to the podcast and to speak to myself all about music. You have the honour and privilege of being the final guest on season 5 of the podcast. I was thinking to myself, who do you get to close out season 5? And I thought the one and only Chesney Hawkes. Who else?
I love it. Well, I'm honoured, mate. I am honoured.
But thank you for coming on. As I just said there, we will talk about music for yourself. We'll talk about your career. And my plan is to hopefully ask you at least one question that you've maybe never been asked before, but should be difficult because you've gave 1,000 interviews over the years. But we'll see how I get on. You can tell me at the end whether I succeeded or not.
Okay, you got it.
But going back to the very beginning, where originally were you brought up?
I was born in Windsor, down in Berkshire, and I grew up in a little town in Berkshire called Sunningdale, which is actually where John Lennon lived when I was a kid. So like it was quite a rock and roll kind of place to be brought up, to be honest.
Where I was brought up, there was definitely nobody famous like John Lennon living there. But
I know it's crazy. It's crazy.
I know. I know that your dad was the lead singer of the 60s group, the Tremolos. Obviously, you were exposed to music from a very young age. I know for a brief period of time, you also had John Lennon's piano, which is now got a home somewhere else.
Indeed, it's in Nick Kershaw's home at the moment. Has been for the.
Is he just holding on to it for you until he returns it? Yeah,
he's actually eager to get rid of it now. To be honest, so I think they want to put a chaise lounge in the lounge.
Right. And are you just looking for a space in your house?
Yeah, we just moved back from America, so we were there for 12 years, and we're only just getting ourselves settled. We've just bought a house, so I had Nick's wife on the phone the other day saying, right, I've got some piano movers for you.
To be fair, it is John Lennon's piano, so it deserves to have a good home.
It does, and it absolutely will. I've just got to figure out where it's going to go and if it's going to fit in our house.
Yeah. But I was going to ask, obviously you were exposed to music from a very young age because of your father.
Yes.
So your dad's playing in a band. You're exposed to a lot of good music of that time. Classic band nowadays, probably. A lot of the bands and artists that I speak to from around the world, it seems to be the same thing happens, which is that they're exposed to good music by their parents, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But they all get to a certain age where they start to discover their own musical taste. So bands that maybe differs from what their parents were listening to. For yourself, who were some of the bands and artists that you started to discover that was something different?
That's a great question, and one I haven't been asked. So There you go. That's tick one. I mean, yeah, you're right. I grew up my dad's record collection, I discovered it when I was a kid, and it was all Beatles, and all these kind of 60s rocker bands, and absolutely fell in love with that. And I have to say, the Beatles, they still are absolutely everything for me. But my dad was like a massive Elvis fan. And of course, all of his mates were like 60s bands like Jerry and the Pacemakers and the Hermits and Marmalade and Searchers and all those kind of, great music. But maybe some of those, not quite what I would have chosen as I started to get older. I started getting into as a young teenager, people like Elvis Costello. My dad never understood Elvis. Elvis, but then when contemporary music for me, like in the 80s, it was Nick Kershaw, it was Prince was my absolute idol, and that's where I mean, not that I didn't. Dad, liked Prince and everything, but it's not his thing. Do you know what I mean? So, like for me, Prince, it was like everything to me, and I always wanted to emulate that even as a kid. I'd go in the studio and try and kind of work out the chords to Little Red Corvette and stuff like that. So that's really what kind of changed everything for me. But then I always went back, because then I really heavily got into Stevie, and realized quite quickly that he was very different to anyone. In fact, there's you can't do the four chords and the truth with Stevie. You've got to know your music, So like I remember kind of like getting into records like Superstition. I think Superstition was the first. With the first single I ever bought on vinyl, but it was on an old gold release. And then, trying to work out that kind of stuff. It's not like, it's musical parts like put together in like clever ways, which was very, very different to, listening to kind of tremolos or Searchers music, which is like four chords and maybe a riff and a great melody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I always found Prince was one of those annoying people that he made everything look easy, but he was such a remarkable musician and songwriter.
Oh, he was the best ever. I mean, there's no doubt that he is the one artist that is, you can't replace that and you can't replicate it. He had the 10 out of 10 talent for every single part of the business, from the writing to the performing to the producing. I mean, he just had everything. That obviously musicianship. I remember seeing an interview with Eric Clapton, and he was asked, "What's it like being the best guitarist in the world?" He said, "I don't know. Ask Prince."
Yeah, he's also he's kind of got that mythical thing about him because of when he came out. Before the internet, before social media, you only kind of seen him on stage.
Yeah, he had the mystique. It was a real mystique, and I loved that, actually. I loved the fact that I didn't really know much about the man, didn't know much about his life. And of course, now with the advent of social media, as you said, you now know what Harry Styles had for breakfast.
Yeah. But I know for yourself, you obviously play... Well, compare you to Prince. You play several instruments, right? So
I don't know. Please don't compare me to Prince. I'll be like, I don't know. I'll be found out.
The drums, the piano, the guitar, vocals. What was the first instrument that you picked up? Was it vocals?
Yeah, probably singing was the first thing. But I made a record when I was 9 years old with a brass band, with a little help from my dad, of course. Yeah. But the first actual instrument I ever played was the piano, and that would have been the piano that John Lennon once owned. So, I always felt like, John Lennon for me was mythical, even at like 9 years old when I started playing. Yeah. So I always felt like I had him under my fingertips,
Yeah. I was going to ask, obviously, of all the instruments that you play, including vocals, which one are you strongest at?
Probably piano.
All right, okay.
I mean, I think I'm a pretty good singer. I think that's just kind of like... I didn't know that so much when I was younger, but as you start to get older, you realize, actually, I can do that stuff. And, so I think singing, naturally wise, I think maybe singing, but then piano was always my first love. And, I've been playing piano since I was, very young, 8, 9 years old. And I would always say that was it's like the mother of all instruments for me, as much as I love guitar. I don't know, it just... Piano, there's something grounding about piano, it's I can't pass a piano without playing a chord of the day.
I ask a lot of people what's the other instrument that they wish they could play.
Yeah, it's good.
And I think probably piano is the most common answer.
Yeah,
strangely followed by saxophone.
Yeah, my daughter is learning saxophone at the moment, so it's a very expressive instrument, but for me, it doesn't ever really sound great until you get good. You know what I mean? Whereas piano, you can actually play a few chords and get away with it. But with an instrument like violin, saxophone, like they are solo instruments. So you kind of like, you have to be proficient for it to actually sound good. And of course, when you're a novice, it really is the opposite of good.
Whenever I see the saxophone, I just think of that movie, The Lost Boys, where there's the guy on the beach playing.
Yes, with the sunglasses. Yeah, exactly.
It just looks ridiculous, and that's what unfortunately sticks in my mind when it comes to the saxophone. But I was going to ask, obviously, you were pretty young when your career started, like 19, 20 years old. As you know, being a singer, being a frontman, it can take a while to find your own voice and to get comfortable within the role of frontman. Mm-hmm. See, when you look back in your career, see when you look back at the old footage of 19-year-old Chesney Hawkes performing, have you discovered your own voice in that by that stage, or do you think you were just winging it?
I was winging it in some ways. I always felt, because I'd been singing since I was a baby, really. So I felt like I had the singing down. It's when I look back at old performances now, I just look awkward. I don't know what to do with my hands, because I always had a guitar around my neck or playing piano in bands, right through my teenage years. And then suddenly I was this pop star, and I had to be. I had to be able to kind of look comfortable on stage. Even like, I remember the record label were like, let's do some dance routines. I'm like, no, that's not fucking happening. So I always felt like slightly awkward. And I feel like when I look at those old performances, I'm kind of just doing shit. You know what I mean? I'm not, it's all natural and kind of like organic and everything else. But I can see that I'm thinking about, what do I do with my hands here? And, that kind of stuff. Whereas that all changes with experience, So when I got thrown into it, I got totally thrown into it. One minute I was playing piano in my local pub, and the next minute I'm headlining Wembley Arena, and it's like, oh shit, I've actually got to, do stuff here and actually look like I know what I'm doing. So I was winging it in many, many ways. But I was quite precocious as well. I was just like, yeah, come on, let's have this, and just kind of went with it. And I guess that's just kind of like the bravado of youth, really,
Yeah. Well, I've got some facts and figures for you. Okay, so 28th of January, 1991, the song The One and Only is released. Obviously, it was part of the soundtrack to Buddy's Song, the movie. So that movie came out 1st of March, 1991, starring alongside the great Roger Daltrey. And then obviously the 30th of March 1991, the song reached number 1 in the UK charts, spent 5 weeks in that position. Later in the year, the song peaked at number 10 on the US Billboard chart in November 1991. So, I mean, it's safe to say 1991 was an extremely busy year for yourself.
Yes, I would say so.
But curious, obviously, December 1990, you were unknown.
Yes.
3 months later, April 1991, the song, the movie's out, and everybody knows who you are. You don't have social media, but everybody knows who you are. It's such a short space of time from going from unknown to being famous. What was that like for yourself? Because did anybody sit you down and explain this is what to expect?
Well, yes and no. I grew up in a rock and roll household where a lot of my dad's friends and my dad had experienced fame, so and my dad kind of knew a lot of people that had been through this same thing. And as I said, I was quite precocious, and I kind of knew this is what I wanted to do from a very young age. And when it came to that point where I was going to step up onto the platform and kind of, it's my turn type of thing. Yeah. That was the kind of feeling that I had in my head. But having said that, it was, and my dad, bless him, definitely sat me down and said, this is going to be an odd time for you. And it's, you don't have to do this. He did do that moment where he was like, we could just turn around and not do this if you want, because this could change your life. He did do that, but he's a rock and roller, and he's, that's his life, and he saw that for me as well. Yeah. So what it does is it completely upturns your whole life, and I was a kid. And when I first auditioned for Buddy's Song, I was 17 years old. So, made the film in 1990, and then it all came out in 91 and everything else. So what happens is one minute, as I said before, I'm sitting there in the corner of the Wells pub in Ascot playing Elton John songs to three men in flat caps and a Jack Russell. And the next minute I'm, on top of the pops and playing arenas and traveling around the world, doing my thing. And I just kind of went with it. And it was because I was part of a big machine, because back in the late 80s, early 90s, it really was that pop machine just went into business, and it's like all the cogs started moving and they knew exactly what to do. And suddenly I was in Japan and I was in America and then I was in Sweden and I was in Germany and, come back and do a TV show in England or whatever. So it was like being whisked into, Oz or something, you're up in the house and suddenly poof, you're in like this munchkin land, and it's like, wow, this is crazy, and it really was crazy. It was a mental time.
Do you remember the first time a stranger noticed you? Gosh,
it happened so fast that I don't.
Was it like a light switch?
It was. It was exactly like that. It was like 1 minute I was not, just going to the pub or just going down the shops or whatever to, I can't do that anymore. It was exactly like that. And instantly there were girls outside my mum and dad's house, like, all the time, like camping outside the house, much to the neighbours' chagrin.
When you think back to that time period, does it seem like a long time ago? Does it feel like yesterday? Does it feel like you're thinking about somebody else?
Yeah, that's how it feels, and I often describe it like that. It's like I look back, and it's like that was a cartoon character almost, because now, I mean, as I was a kid, so I hadn't experienced anything in life really, and I was just experiencing it daily. Everything it was like a barrage of information and experiences. So it seems like not only 1,000 years ago. It also feels like was that really me? Did I go through that? Was that me? I didn't have a moment to stop and kind of figure out what was happening to me. I didn't really stop until my head was so much in the clouds, like, and so busy and so like crazy that I didn't really have a moment to think about anything until I was in kind of like mid-20s, and then it was just like, then it ground to a halt, and so I felt like I'd been kind of inoculated by fame and had this crazy experience, and number one record and the traveling everywhere and around the world and everything, meeting people like McCartney and just hobnobbing with the stars or whatever, you know what I mean? Just kind of that life just suddenly became like, and then suddenly it wasn't there anymore. It was like the plug had been pulled.
Yeah.
And so that was when I started looking back a little bit and think, oh shit, that was I need to deal with this, but I didn't know that because I didn't even know, because I hadn't been to the shops or for 4 years or so, it's that kind of silly, ordinary day stuff, like taking the dog for a walk out in public, just stopped. Everything stopped.
But talking about the song, The One and Only, obviously it was written by the great Nick Kershaw.
Yep.
It's a great song. It launched your career. It changed your life. And it's just one song. And there's people out there that they associate that one song with yourself, even although you've done so much more across your life and your career. Mm-hmm. What's your relationship like with the song? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Has it changed over time?
I've had ups and downs with it over the years. I didn't, after the kind of crazy time that we were just talking about, I didn't play it for probably close to a decade, and just kind of refused to. I didn't even go out under my own name. Right. I like formed bands, and I just wanted to be in Radiohead basically, and just shoegazed and turned up to 11 and just, so I kind of rebelled against that whole thing. But because it's weird to be defined by most of the general public by, a 6-month period in your life when you were 19.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, and kind of unfair, So then about 2000, something like that, I started to get offers, to go out to do gigs as me and do the one and only and everything. So I started to do that trepidatiously, I will say, because I honestly thought, and no one's going to remember, that was 10 years ago or whatever. And so, but it wasn't the case. And that song kind of had its own life. And that's when I realized, with music, I mean, I should have known, because I have artists and music that has stuck with me from decades and decades gone by, even music that was written before I was even born, that are my favorite records. So why wouldn't the one and only do that, and it did, it kind of like got handed down like a mantle, and it's like a song with wings, it goes off and finds connections with people that is really nothing to do with you, and that's what I realized at that point, and then of course, I look at it musically and I'm like, this is a fucking clever song. It's in 4 different keys. And of course, at that point, I've been writing a lot for the last 10 years before that, and learning a lot from people. But when you study that song musically, it's a beast.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to the song just the other day, and it's a great sounding song. Sonically, the recording of it it still sounds really good, even compared to recordings nowadays. But the song itself, it's a really good song. And someone I had on the podcast previously had said that they liked pop music, but they liked the pop music of the late 70s, the 80s, the early 90s.
Yeah.
Because what they'd said was pop music then, it was still bands making popular music. It wasn't, if you fast forward even 4 or 5 years, it became very much, 4 or 5 people in a group. It was how they looked. They weren't properly singing. It was a lot of dancing. And, pop music changed. But back when that song came out, it was still a proper band playing a really good song.
Yeah. I think that's just why I sometimes get confused with being an 80s artist. I think, well, obviously, maybe there's the Nick Kershaw connection, but a lot of people think that, the one and only was in the 80s. But of course it wasn't, it's 91. But yeah, I agree with you. But everything kind of changed early 90s. Like, literally, when I was riding high in the charts, Nirvana released Smells Like Teen Spirit. And that just... it obviously just whitewashed the whole of the pop industry at that moment. And suddenly, artists like me just became uncool, and it was like, this is what it's.
Directly after that, especially in the UK, you then had the Britpop.
Of course, all that. Yeah, of course, and I talked to James Blunt about this because we just did a tour together, and it's so true that. We just became uncool, and him and I and a few other artists, became kind of punching bags for people like the Gallagher brothers, or just people that just thought they were enemy darlings. Or someone like me, it's just so uncool. I couldn't have been, less cool if I tried. Just by being a pop artist that was kind of like slightly rooted in the 80s, It was just like time had moved on, as it were. And I think that's probably was one of the reasons why, it didn't carry on for me at that point, because everything changed so fast in those early days of the 90s.
I'm curious though, because Nick Kershaw wrote the song. How was the song originally presented to yourself?
So I was recording the soundtrack to the Buddy Song film at Abbey Road, and my dad, who was kind of co-managing me at the time, knew this guy called Stuart Newton, who was Nick Kershaw's publisher, and he was having lunch with Stuart, and he said, "Well, what do you think of this song?" And he put on a couple of Nick's songs, and obviously Nick's very, you can, every time you hear him sing, it's Nick Kershaw. It's very recognizable. And he's like, "Oh, is that a Nick Kershaw, a new Nick Kershaw album?" Ches will be happy because he loves Nick. And he said, "Well, it is Nick, but it's not. Nick's taking a break from releasing records, and he wants to kind of get into producing, writing for other artists." So basically, my dad brought this cassette to me with about 15 songs on it. I've still got it somewhere. I've got a little asterisk by the one and only, another song called Oxygen, and then this other song called I'm in Love with My TV, of all things. And I ended up recording the one and only. Jason Donovan recorded Oxygen. And would you believe this? Cliff Richard recorded I'm in Love with My TV.
Right.
So I got the hit out of it, but that's how it happened. And when it was brought to the team, we were at Studio 3, Abbey Road. I'll never forget it. And my dad literally played it from a cassette, and played the song. And everyone was there. Roger Daltrey was there. Some of the film producers were there. Record producers were there, obviously, record label, it was management, too many cooks, and pretty much everybody in that room just went, sounds like a Nick Kershaw throwout, Right. And I remember the producer coming to me and saying, "We could do better than this. We let's keep it in house. Let's write something, And it's just so funny, really. I went away that day thinking, oh, that's a shame. I won't get to meet Nick Kershaw. That was my, driving force behind it.
It's like if Nick Kershaw wrote the song and it's on a cassette tape, how does it work? Are you allowed to put your own spin in it, or do you have to pretty much do a copy of what he has already written and recorded?
No, you can do whatever you want with it, really. As a writer, and of course I've been on the other side of this, where I've written songs and other artists have recorded my songs. That you hope that they do a good job and that they bring something different and interesting to the song. But with this, we all wanted Nick. I definitely wanted Nick involved because the demo was so good. Yeah. And of course I was such a massive fan that I wanted Nick involved. So he came in and co-produced the record. And it basically, we took a lot of the tracks from his demo and kind of, worked from that. Yeah. And that's the way it worked for us. But sometimes it goes completely the opposite direction. And, you send out a song and somebody records it and it comes back, as a jazz record or something. And you're like, wow, I didn't hear that. But sometimes it's really cool and interesting. And you think, wow, I would never have thought to do that. And then there are other times where you're like, I think I might have demo-itis.
Yeah. I'm going to fast forward. August 2007, you were involved in a project called Lexus Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah, that was fun.
Okay. You composed original pieces of music.
Yes.
Which were performed by the London Symphony Orchestra. So how did that come about? And what was it like to hear songs that you created performed by the symphony?
There was a hair on the back of the neck moment for me. It came about where they literally just contacted me. Lexus were putting this project together where it was a new car, and the shtick was it was the best sound system in the world anywhere inside this car. It had like 39, Bose speakers or whatever it was, and it was like remarkable, inside that car. It was incredible. It was like 7.1 sound system inside the car. It was crazy. So what they wanted to do, and what we all came up with, was we were going to compose these classical pieces of music and then place like 24 of these Lexus cars in the shape of an orchestra, and then we would pipe in, different parts of the orchestra to different cars. So like at the front, there would be the violins and violas and then it'd go to the middle row. It would be kind of woodwinds, brass wind and all that. And then at the back, it would be like taiko drums and percussion and stuff like that. And then let people wander around and sit in the cars and hear so you just hear like that stem, if you see what I mean. Yeah. And then you'd come out and you'd hear the full orchestra. And we recorded it at Air Studios, which is one of the most beautiful studios ever at Lyndhurst. And, 80-piece orchestra. And I mean, God, that was a kind of a full circle moment for me. Like, wow, this is amazing. I wrote that, and the London Symphony Orchestra is playing it. It's like, yeah, incredible moment.
Hey, it's Johnny from Alcotomic, and you're watching Slowhands Rock Talk Show, talking all things music.
Just a very quick message to say thank you for watching. It really is appreciated. If you could hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and remember to hit the notification bell. That way you won't miss any future episodes that come out. Now back to the video. I think that's one of those things that unless you actually experience it yourself, it's probably hard to describe.
Very hard to describe. I'd recorded strings before, even on as far back as Buddy's song. Mike Batt arranged some strings for me for a couple of my songs on the Buddy Song album. And of course, that was amazing. We had a string section come into Abbey Road Studio 2, and that was amazing. But this project, to have a full 80-piece orchestra play your music, it really was like, you can't really explain it till you're there. I was almost crying.
Peter, I would imagine that would be really cool, because if you're writing a song with a band, you are pretty much focused on the one melody. You are all working towards the same goal.
Yeah.
With an orchestra, you've got so many counter melodies for all the different instruments coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course I had help, there was arrangers and another composer that I worked with as well. And of course, working on sessions like that is like nothing like what I had been used to throughout my whole career. Most of the, you record in many, many different ways. In those early days, it was literally a band in a studio and try and separate as much as you can, but it's like you just play it live and do it. Then, of course, there's multi-tracking and you kind of add new things in it. But then with an orchestra, you've got 80 musicians all playing at the same time. Like it's just, wow, amazing. Yeah, brilliant fun.
And then obviously you also got the chance to appear in a musical, Can't Smile Without You.
Yes, I did. I've done a few musicals actually in my time. And sorry, you had a question then.
But that was obviously, you done a few performances in the West End before it went on a national tour.
Yep.
So how did you get involved with that? And how did being in the theatre production compare to being on stage with a band?
Oh, that is I learned a lot from that. I've done a few musicals. I'll go back to having about. I've played Joseph a couple of times. I played Jesus in Godspell. I played Robert Louis. I did a new musical called Kidnapped, which was based on Robert Louis Stevenson's book. No, it wasn't called Kidnapped. It was called McGregor's Trap. It was great. I did that at the Edinburgh Fringe. McGregor's Trap, based on Kidnapped, which was great fun. But this one, it was the first kind of like real. Professional West End musical that I'd done, and all the music was based around Barry Manilow, and I had to. It was such a challenge because I had to play all the musical parts, the piano parts, as well as 34 songs, and of course you had to learn every song in 6 different keys because that's what Barry does, and it came back. I literally auditioned for it. They approached me and thought he might be right for this role. And I remember coming in to meet Bill Kenwright, and he had a piano in his office, and he said, "Well, go on then, play me something, play Mandy," And I just sat in the corner of his room and on a beautiful baby grand piano and played Mandy, and he literally offered me the role right there and then. I was like, wow, that was easy. So yeah, it was an amazing experience, and got to travel around the UK, and obviously, as you said, did a little bit of a West End run, and I learned a lot. And what's different there is that it's very, very, very organised. Like sometimes with a band, it can be a bit kind of like, you play that part, and you do that part, and it's all a bit rock and roll and a bit loose sometimes, But with this, everybody has their parts written down. It's amazing for me. What was amazing for me is knowing what you can achieve with a bunch of talented people. Because I was sometimes the things that we attempted vocally, where we had a cast of 15 people, and even when you're not on stage at that moment, you've got a part.
Yeah.
And you'd be singing into your microphone from backstage with a harmony part. So there'd be sometimes, 14, 15 people all singing different harmony parts at the same time.
Yeah.
That with a band, you'd be lucky to get a 4-part harmony, It's very, very different.
Yeah, my sister, she is in the theatre world. So she's done the whole West End for the first half of her career. And she's almost kind of retired from that now. And she now does choreography. World and in the West End, but I've had a few people on, so I kind of know the workings of the theatre world. And again, it's like, as an audience member, you just go and sit down and it looks spectacular, and you go, that was amazing.
You don't really realise what goes into it.
Work goes into a single aspect of it.
And I've been on the other side of it too, Ian, because I wrote a musical, and just before COVID, it started to really gain traction, and we did a showcase at the London School of Musical Theatre. I had a producer, a director, and we had a cast ready to go, and it was my musical. So I wanted it, because it's quite a rock and roll musical. I wanted it to have that kind of rock and roll edge to it, and I wanted the band to be, proper. As it were, but it's not always easy, because you have to have some kind of pit musicians that read, and because that's how it works. That's just how it works. You can't just go in and say, right, you play the A, and it just doesn't work like that. They have to have parts, and you have to be able to go back to certain bars and certain places in the show to be able to get it right. But it's a very, very different experience, but one that I'm so grateful for, because I feel like I've learned a lot, and I've taken a lot of that kind of discipline into working with the band.
Funny you say that. I had on the podcast one of the guitarists from the West End show We Will Rock You. So the guitarist that plays the Brian May parts. Yeah. And it was his first ever time within the theatre world doing that.
Wow.
But prior to that, he'd always played in like cover bands and things like that. And Brian May had picked him to play the part. And he says the first rehearsal, it got to the end of the song, he looked to the drummer, waiting for the cue to end it. But like, no, you don't look at the drummer, because there's someone conducting the actual band.
That's
it's
true.
little things like that.
But
going back to the music, your last album, Living Arrows, was released 4th of April 2025, so almost a year ago actually. And you've been going out gigging in support of it. See your touring band, the band that you use for touring, is that the band that also plays on the album?
To a certain extent, yes. There's some people that didn't play on the record. My brother is my drummer. He's been with me since day one, so he played all over it. Obviously, I played all over the album. But my guitarist wasn't on it. A lot of the time I had like people like Nick, because there's 3 songs that I wrote with Nick Kershaw on the album. He played quite a lot of on it. And funnily enough, that's been a contention within the band, because like my guitarist, like Nick came to a gig the other day, and Nick is such an amazing guitar player, and he obviously played like the solo for the One and Only and that kind of stuff. So when it comes to playing something like that in front of Nick, it's difficult to he was very nervous. I gave him a wink just before the solo,
But I was listening to the band, the current touring band that you're using. I mean, I think there's maybe 5 of you in the band, I think. Yeah. But I mean, it's a real...
Well, there's 4...
Sorry?
There's 4 members, but then sometimes my son plays with us as well.
Yeah, but it's a really good sounding band. It sounds well rehearsed, which is really good. If I was to ask you to describe your band members in a few words, how would you describe each of the members?
That's a great question. You say we rehearse, but I think what it is we just work so much. We're just tight because we play together so much, So my brother, solid, absolutely solid. My guitarist, Martin, is the most reliable guy ever. He's like, he owns the van. He's like, he does things for me before I think about doing them. Like my guitars will be tuned, everything else, So, bass player. I mean, how do you describe bass players? I mean, without him, like he has the feel. He just brings the feel, and it's like the glue, you know. Yeah. So it's like everybody brings something to the table, you know, and it's and like collectively it just becomes this kind of solid mass that just works, you know. And I love that about bands, you know. It's like when I look at bands like you know, big bands that only work when they're together, like The Who, for instance, you know. It's like, I mean, as much as you love you know, Townsend's solo stuff, it's never going to be as good as when Roger's singing it. And I love when, you know, as much as you like Roger's stuff, if you don't have the behind him, or Keith Moon's drums, or the solidness of the Ox but playing bass, it just doesn't work. Same with the Beatles, same with the Stones. You know, I love the dynamics. Even like, I'm friends with the Tears for Fears guys. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't know why there's a magic when those two are together. Collectively, they're great. I mean, apart, they're amazing. You know, like Roland is one of the most talented songwriters and singers of his generation. Yeah. But for whatever reason, it's just something more when you put Kurt in with him. It's just an odd thing, and I feel like that with my band.
It's the magic of a band. But I'm going to ask you, obviously, your voice is your instrument. And unlike a guitar, you can change the guitar strings, the drums, change the skin. Your voice, you can look after it, but it will naturally age over time. How is your voice today, and how do you think it compares to, for example, 30 years ago?
I had more of a pure tone back then. I could sing very high and pure and clear. Yeah. And over the years, I mean, I've never stopped playing live. Yeah. So I've probably I've worn it quite a lot, you know. But I feel like I'm more powerful as a singer than I was back then. I can hit notes pretty solidly, but I'm definitely more. I've got that kind of rasp in my voice that I never had back in those early days, which is good in some ways because there's a tone there that people like, and I kind of like it too. But it can be a little bit more unreliable, if you know what I mean. Like one gig, I would be perfect and everything's great, and I just like I'm on it. I've got this, and I know that I can hit that. I'm going to be able to hit those notes today, you know. But then the next day, for whatever reason, maybe I had too many beers the night before, or didn't sleep well, or whatever it is. It's like, I'm not even going to attempt that note today. It's just that. So that's how it's changed. It's kind of, I think the rasp is the biggest thing, you know.
It sounds like you maybe understand your voice better nowadays.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so. And I do look after my voice. I warm up before every single gig. And, you know, I do all the kind of, I've got a little nebulizer, you know, and just make sure I'm, you know, if I've got, like I did my tour, I just did, I think it's 24 dates in 28 days. I mean, you seriously have to look after yourself. So, you know, all the boys are going out drinking and stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to go to bed.
It's so rock and roll, but
I know. Times have changed. I used to go out and drinking, you know, all night. And now it's like a cup of chamomile tea and early to bed.
Here's a question for you. Someone that's had success within the music industry, what is the secret? And what I mean is there's millions of bands and musicians across the world who have the same dream as yourself, and for whatever reason they don't make it. I mean, you think about it, is it ability? Is it songwriting? Is it pure luck? Is it who you know? Is it being in the right place at the right time? What do you think makes someone successful?
You've named all of the things except for one there, the most important thing for me is that drive. You know, it's the passion, the belief. The kind of unflinching, unwavering belief of just getting up every day and doing music. That is, I never had a backup plan, you know, and I'm glad I didn't. And I honestly think that is one of the reasons that I made it. I've worked with over the years, you know, mentoring young artists. I've done that quite a lot, actually. And you always know the ones that have a chance of making it. And it's not particularly the ones that are the more talented ones, although that really does help, obviously. But it's those ones that kind of sleep with their guitar, you know, that just like, you can see the ones that like have been knocked down and they just get up. You know, they just get up and carry on, and just it's that knowledge, it's that thing in your head that's like, I am a musician, I am a singer, this is what I do, this is my life, you know. And those are that's if you have that mentality, you have way more of a chance of making it, because it's so shit out there and so hard and so difficult, and it's all about luck. It is all about being at the right time at the right place. The right ears at the right place. You know, you have to have that little bit of extra fairy dust, you know, in there. So with all of that, you're going to get knocked back, and it's going to affect you, you know, and you have to get up and keep going. And that to me is the biggest thing.
What's something that you know now that you wish you knew back at the very beginning? If you could go back and speak to 19-year-old Chesney, what would you say to him?
Actually, funnily enough, that we're talking about this is quite a similar thing. I honestly, I was so like precocious and kind of, I knew this was my life, you know, right from when I was 9 years old. And I think I'm very lucky to have that. And there's not many people have that in their lives, you know. And I was so passionate about it, and there was absolutely no chance in my head that I wasn't going to do it, you know. But of course, time does notch away at these things, you know, and you, as I say, you do get knocked back, and of course, you can't not be affected by the ups and downs of this business, you know, and actually the downs and downs and downs and downs of this business is so hard. It's like winning the lottery. I won the lottery at 19, you know, and I realized that. And because I have so many friends that are incredible, you know, that for whatever reason slip through the ropes. I mean, you know that. You probably know friends that are like, wow, amazing singers and incredible songwriters, musicians, whatever. And that actually always... I love the thought of that, like that there's probably another Beatles out there that just didn't make it because of the timing. You know what I mean? There's a song.
That is the beauty of social media, is that you could probably end up discovering a new band that years ago you would never have got a chance to hear. But through social media, YouTube, all that sort of thing,
it's all out there.
It's out there. It's just a matter of trying to find it. But I was listening to the most recent album, and Loud and Get Hold of Yourself are the two big songs from the album. But this is the beauty of music. It's different for everybody. There's two hidden gems on that album that is not those songs. I think, anyway. Do You Ever Think of Me? And the last song on the album, Don't Wanna Be You. They're both, compared to the other ones, they're both really, really... They're different in the sense that they start off just acoustic guitar vocals. You know, Do You Ever Think of Me? The drums come in halfway through it. It's kind of like the Brushes doing like a shuffle beat, but it's so stripped back. It makes you focus on the words. It's such a lovely song, and it's similar to that as well. It's got a really great chord progression in it, but again, it's so stripped back that it makes you focus on the words. Those songs are really, really good, and they're my favourites from the latest album.
Well, I appreciate you listening to it, you know, because I know what it can be like sometimes when, you know, you have big singles like Loud and Get a Hold of Yourself, and people don't necessarily these days, you know, listen to the album as a whole. And you go in, and because of streaming, which I can't, I hate it really. I mean, it's practical for people and you know, in that way, but I'd much rather have the physical vinyl. And actually, like when I was a kid, you know, I'd buy a Prince album or a U2 album or whatever it is, you know, and I'd come in and I'd read everything on the liner notes, and you'd know all the songs and everything, because the truth is, this album, you know, it was purposefully put together as an album, and you know, it is kind of like a game of two halves in a way. It's got the kick the doors down pop bangers like Get a Hold of Yourself and Live Forever, and then there's the introspective songs like what you're saying there, you know, the meaning.
You also listen to the album, and you can tell that you have put time into thinking about the album. It's going to start with this song, which is going to lead into this song. This song's going to be the third or fourth one. This song's definitely got to end the album. You know, there's thought put into that, and it's sad because that sort of process is lost nowadays.
It's a dying art.
with how with music being streamed. I know it's just the way of the world now. But that kind of thing is lost. But you tell the time was put in to it as an album.
I like to think of it as it's not lost. It's just more of a niche thing. You know, like I appreciate you for listening to the album for what it is, and of course there are some of my fans that have done that. You know, and other people that have done that. Not many, I would assume, but it's lovely to get feedback like that, because there was work that went into it, and there was a lot of, you know, care put into like when I knew that we was going to put this out on vinyl. I mean, I absolutely dead sure we were going to make sure it was very available on vinyl. I wanted to make sure that the record's order is done in side A, side B. Yeah, you know. Like I used to listen to music, you know, when I first got into music. So, and I think it's important.
Yeah, that's good. But I know that you go back on tour 24th of April, and you're pretty much busy right through to November. Yeah. You know, afterwards, will you get kind of Christmas out the way? Will you start thinking of a follow-up to that album?
Oh, I'm already deep into it, Ian. Yeah, right. I've already started showcasing some new songs on this latest tour that I've just finished. We're looking at, you know, releasing something way before that, like maybe even kind of in the summer at some point. Yeah, so not the album, but a single at least, and I'd like to put a couple of singles out this year, and then drop an album, you know, early next year. I've got to get back in the studio, mind you. So,
find a gap in your calendar.
Well, that's it. It's really difficult. It is really difficult, you know. How do you do that? Like, and I know, like, I see people like Taylor Swift who like go on tour and then write their album, you know, from a hotel room. It's like, just not me. It's just not me. But I am gathering songs now, and there's some good stuff. I feel like I'm on a bit of a roll right now, so I don't want to stop. You know, I want to kind of make hay while the sun is shining, and while Radio 2 are you know happy to play my songs, and I've got an audience there that was building. I definitely want to keep it going. So your new release is on the way.
Oh, that's good to hear. Before we finish up, Chesney, I like to ask some fun questions. So I'm going to ask the questions. You tell me what pops into your head, okay?
All right. Quick fires,
Imagine you've got a time machine. Imagine you could go back in time, anywhere in the world. What is the one concert that you wish you could have attended?
It has to be Beatles. I'm trying to think where, though, because I think the Shea Stadium is an obvious one, but I don't think you'd be able to hear them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I look at that old footage, and it's literally them on a tiny little stage with little speakers. And their mics the amps weren't even mic'd up. It's crazy. You know, it's like, how are you supposed to play a stadium like that? But yeah, Beatles, maybe the Cavern. Let's go early days. I'm going to go back to the Cavern in like 63 or something like that. 62, right. 63.
Similar question to that. See if you could go back in time and attend one of your own gigs as a spectator. Is there a particular gig that stands out for yourself?
There's a few. The first one would be... really early days, 91, and I headlined Hammersmith Odeon. Right. And that was my kind of I'd seen some of my idols there, you know, and I was so excited that I had sold out Hammersmith Odeon, you know, and I will always call it Hammersmith Odeon. They call it Labatt's Apollo now, don't they? But so yeah, and it was a really good band. I had a great band in those early days. It was, you know, still my brother on the drums and everything. And I remember Piers Morgan came to that show because he was coming to review it, and it was a great show. Really did well, and then at one point, one of the fans threw a teddy bear on stage, and I walked backwards and stepped on it, and then fell on my arse on stage. And what did he write about? That moment.
Lots of great albums recorded over the years. Does the perfect album, start to finish, exist? And if so, what is the album or albums?
Wow. The closest... I mean, this is a difficult question because it's different genres and different styles and different artists, obviously. Yeah. But there's two that stand out for me. One is Fleetwood Mac Rumours. Right. Okay. Because it kind of has everything. You know, it's got all the beautiful McVie songs and of course Stevie songs, and Lindsey Buckingham is just the greatest. Yeah. God, he was so good. He was such a tour de force. So for me, it has all of those different elements, you know, in one album, and it's from start to finish a masterpiece. Then I'm going to do three. Is that all right? Yeah, go for it. I'm going to say Beatles' White Album, just because it was so eclectic. I'm doing that same thing. It was such an eclectic album, yep. That is why I'm here talking to you now. That album did it for me. And then I'm going to go Sign of the Times, Prince. Cool, that's fine. This might paint one of your current band members in a bad light, this next question. So, imagine you've got a dead body in the back of your car. It's 4:00 in the morning. You need help disposing of this body, no questions asked. Which member of your band are you phoning for help, and why? Oh my God. I'm going to say Martin, my guitar player, because he's, as I said before, he's like, he does things beyond the call of duty. And I would say that's pretty beyond the call of duty. He sometimes invoices us with interesting things, like he'll put Hawkes hand holding 10 quid or you know, just silly things like that. So now he could say disposing of body. So going to see in concert, Martin is the one to avoid, potential serial killer. Yeah, I would say so. That's fine. As you know, thousands of great songs written and recorded across the years by different bands, different artists. What's the one song you wish you could have sat in the recording studio to witness the band record the song? God Only Knows, the Beach Boys. Nice. And last question for yourself. The answer could probably change daily, but for today, who is your Mount Rushmore when it comes to bands? Who is the 4 bands, whether it be your initial inspiration, songwriting, performance, the overall package? Who are the 4 bands that you're putting on your Mount Rushmore? Bands or artists? Bands or artists? Beatles, Prince, Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Wonder. Excellent. Well, Chesney, thank you so much for coming on, answering all my questions. Obviously, you've got your official website, chesneyhawkes.com. I do encourage everyone to go to there. They can get gig dates, merchandise, up-and-coming news. It's all there. You're also on social media, so they should give you a follow, subscribe on YouTube. If they can buy a physical copy, great. If they like to stream, if they like to download, they can do all that good stuff. But I do wish you all the continued success. And next time you're up in Scotland, give me a shout, and we'll meet up, and I'll even buy you a beer. No, I think I owe you one. That was a great interview. Thank you so much, Ian. Did I manage to ask you at least one question? Oh, at least. I would say there was probably, you know, a good handful there that I'd never been asked before. So, and even the ones that I had been asked before were framed in interesting ways. So, bravo. Well done. There you go. I've made it interesting for yourself and hopefully interesting for the viewers as well. But thank you so much for coming on, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much, Ian. That was really great. Loved it. Cheers, pal.
Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Thank you.